This is how you begin to navigate the situation. That's why I talk about living free. Don't allow anything outside of you to dictate how you feel, to dictate how I feel. I start to take the power back. Say, no, I don't want to feel that way. No, I don't want to. No, you know what? So, okay, why? Okay, I'm going to do something about that because I want to live free.
Welcome to the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. Now, here's your host, author, speaker, entrepreneur, Cornell Jermaine.
Thank you for joining me. I have a special guest. He is an award-winning Hollywood producer, New York Times best-selling author, motivational speaker, and preacher. Please help me welcome the president and CEO of Franklin Entertainment and author of Live Free, my brother, DeVon Franklin. DeVon, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing very well. I think the last time, I know it's been a little over a year now. The last time I saw you, we were at Stellars 2019.
Wow, in Vegas.
Yes, in Vegas. And I remember everybody was backstage, and I don't know if you remember this moment, but Jacqueline was on the stage. And she was wrecking. She was wrecking, and everybody went from the green room all the way to the side stage, just hollering and screaming at this beautiful queen that was just wrecking the house.
Yes,
but
isn't she amazing?
She is amazing, but
unbelievable,
unbelievable. But little did we know at that time, with in a room with tens of thousands of people, that a year later we would all be stuck in the house, quarantine, wearing face masks like underclothes. I mean, it's crazy. I'm curious, how is this pandemic, emotionally speaking, how has it affected you?
It's affected me in many, many ways. And my heart goes out to every family that has lost a loved one, around the world. There have been so many that have been, that are now, being so disrupted by COVID. So I always preface my personal journey with making sure that I'm in solidarity with anyone who lost someone. For me, it was a great period of time emotionally, because it really allowed me to do some introspection. It really allowed me to stop. It's like I'm running, I'm producing, I'm speaking, I'm traveling, I'm doing all these things. And so sometimes even in the busyness, we can get a little disconnected from what's really going on the inside. And so for me, it gave me a chance to stop and really assess a lot of my life, things that I wanted to change, things that I wanted to remain the same. And so, as we're starting to slowly come out of it, I feel like I'm a lot better because of it. So I really had a great period of time in terms of just really getting to know me again and to do some reassessment.
Yeah, for sure. You're also a better barber. I saw that you had to get some clipper work going for a minute there.
Yeah, I sure did. Now, I stopped it though. I'm now back in the shop.
I hear you. That's a brave move. I wouldn't ever. But kudos to you on that. You have a new title I want to get into extensively. But before we do, I want to talk about DeVon before Hollywood. We see you speaking and ministering and writing books. But many might not know your story. I know our adolescence years are years that really shape us, mentally, emotionally speaking. And sometimes it could be the most turbulent years between our physical and psychological man, Talk to us about 16-year-old DeVon. What was life like for you back then?
Oh, wow. 16-year-old DeVon. Okay. Wow. I mean, I was in the Bay Area. I went to Albany High School, which is, in the Bay Area, there's like Oakland, Berkeley, Albany, and Richmond. So, Albany is almost like an urban suburb. And so I was 16 years old. I was a sophomore. And I got my driver's license on my 16th birthday. And as a sophomore, I was playing basketball. I was also in student government. And, at that time, I knew I wanted to go to Hollywood. I was like very focused on, going to Los Angeles, becoming successful in Hollywood. During that time, I was in acting in student plays. I had given my first sermon, about a year before when I was 15. And so, I was all about like, hey, I want to go to Hollywood. I know what I want to do. I was enjoying life at that point in time. And then that summer in between my sophomore and junior year, I got a car. which was great. And then I stopped playing basketball in my junior year so I could get an after school job to pay the car insurance. So, at 16 years old, man, I just was a kid with a dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
No idea if it was going to happen, but that's where I was.
Yeah. I'm curious. Many times you hear people when they get to this place of fame and fortune, if you will, oftentimes they recall those moments, like maybe they saw their favorite actor in a movie or got a chance maybe even to meet their favorite actor. What was it that kind of gave you this spark of big vision and dream for Hollywood? Was it a movie you saw or somebody you idolized?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was a combination of things. So I'm the middle child of three boys. And, I grew up as many middle children trying to find our place in the world, just trying to find our place, like, where am I supposed to be? And so as a result, I found myself escaping into movies. I would watch, movies and television shows as a kid, and I would find a lot of peace because it was like a great escape. And that's what entertainment, most people don't realize this. The definition of entertainment is escape. Because you're escaping your reality and you're plugging into this narrative, this fictional reality in some cases. And then when that is over, you then get back to reality. So for me, I was watching movies and TV shows and being inspired. But what really made the difference for me was my father passing. That was a tragedy. He passed away when I was 9 years old. From a heart attack. And, it was devastating. And so it was really a combination of watching entertainment and going to church that really helped me navigate this very difficult period of time. And I really felt like, okay, well, first of all, I'm fascinated by Hollywood, movies like Rocky and The Color Purple and Back to the Future. I mean, just absolutely fascinated. These are like some of my favorite movies to this day. And I felt like, okay, wow, how can I be a part of an industry that's making this type of content, but that also has helped me as a young kid find a place in the world. And then I felt like I wanted to be a part of an industry to create content and to be a part of this industry to help other people find their place in the world.
It's so interesting that you said entertainment is defined as escape or escapism. And I think many of us, we're involved in it. We do it on the regular, especially in this quarantine. And that explains reasons why things like Versus is such a huge, popular thing, because it gave us a moment to escape and kind of recall the moments of the past, watching Isley Brothers or whoever, So that is such a powerful analogy, and I'm glad you put that in there. You started off as an intern for Will Smith's management company. How did those years shape DeVon, the now CEO? How did those years shape you?
Oh man, they shaped me greatly. I mean, the company that Will was managed at, Benny Medina was, a manager there and one of the partners, along with James Lassiter. And when I was an intern, I was interning primarily for Benny. And I mean, my whole exposure to entertainment was at that company, seeing how it all ran. And at the time, that company managed Will and Jada and Babyface and J-Lo and P. Diddy. I mean, they had all the hot talent at the time. And, seeing how the company was ran and seeing, people coming in and out, it completely was like, oh, wow, one day I want to do this. And so now, I have my company and, it's just kind of like, wow, as a kid, you dream about doing something, you have exposure to it. And then to now be able to do a version of it myself, it's kind of amazing. I mean, I walk in here, I'm like, whoa, this is crazy, and again, I'm still growing. I feel like I'm just getting started. I got a long way to go. But it shaped me quite a bit. And it influenced me in a very positive way quite a bit. And it also motivated me because I saw that and I wasn't content just servicing it. I was like, great, I'm learning, I'm going to service them, but I know I'm going to create my own. And so it really motivated me and pushed me to go do that.
It's my understanding that in that initial interview for that internship, the young lady asked you what was your intention or what did you want from this field of entertainment, and you said you want to make change. And obviously she thought you meant change as in your pockets, but you had a bigger vision. You wanted to make change in the world. I'm curious, at that moment, what was your idea of change? What change did you want to bring to the culture of entertainment?
Yeah, I wanted to bring the change, man, of inspiration. Even at that time, I was keenly aware that entertainment is a medium that inspires and changes the world. And I felt like if I really want to have an impact in the world, I got to go to entertainment. I got to go to the field of entertainment. And so at that time, when I was talking about change, I was like, look, I want to make positive change in the world, and I want to use entertainment to do it. And so that was when I was 18 years old, and I was very clear of intent. And that intention has been a powerful anchor that has carried me. That interview was about almost 25 years ago. And that anchor of intention is what's carried me now, because especially when you're navigating entertainment, it's a tumultuous business. It's a difficult business. It's a very up and down business. And without an anchor, you can get lost. And so for me, I was never here. Don't get me wrong. Making money is great, and I'm certainly going to get paid my worth. However, that was never my motivator. The motivator was, and the intention was change. I want to bring change. I want to make a positive contribution to the world through entertainment. And so having that clarity and understanding why I was here, it's really helped shape my purpose in this business.
It's funny you mentioned change and the word anchor. You said, and it's just interesting how people like you and my sister Holly Carter, who are known figures in faith, but have found this space in entertainment that makes them thrive. And you and I both know in church that can be people kind of used to cringe on that. How do you I guess marry this faith that you have in entertainment and allow them to meet but not to compromise one another?
That's a great question. In my experience, and as I've, lived, and as I have, grown personally and also in the business, what happens is that the world of faith, the communities of faith, create these narratives that are false. And so, like there is this, like the Truman Show. Remember the Truman Show with Jim Carrey? And this idea, at first it looked real, like, oh yeah, this is my life. And then you come to find out it's not, that there are artificial barriers that were created to create this environment of control. And in my experience, especially the narrative around entertainment in communities of faith, it's done just that. This narrative of, oh, you got to be careful, and you're going to go too far, and the devil's playground and Sodom and Gomorrah and all that. What it does is it confines and restricts the very artists and people who have the power and the talent to change the world. So when we're taught, hey, be careful, don't go. And if you do go, be wary. What happens is we sometimes are tempted to never go. And if we do go, never operate in the fullness of our gift. And so my experience with faith in entertainment has been to, one, not buy into the false narrative that I was preached to when I started, right? Because everybody told I want to go to Hollywood. They were like, oh, faith, Sodom and Gomorrah and devil's playground. I had to, one, not buy into that. I had to, two, go for myself to experience what God did or didn't have for me. I was also very clear. I feel a call to the business, but I don't know until I get confirmation. Meaning I did not know that God had a door open for me here until I got here and I started exploring it. And I had to see, God, this is what I want to do. Give me confirmation. And as I worked in the business as the intern, through the internship initially, I got the confirmation from those that were in the business, like, oh yeah, no, you're great. You have the capacity to become successful in this business. And that encouragement gave me confirmation. So three, once I started to get that confirmation, I then had to understand, what does it take to become excellent in this business? Because in my experience, too often people of faith are not excellent. And we kind of lean on our faith and lean on God to try to make up the difference for our lack of discipline. And I'm like, no, you got to study to show yourself approved. Faith without works is dead. So I had to bring some works to my faith and learn, what does it take to be successful in entertainment, and learn the business of entertainment. And as I did that and began to really understand that, then I had to have the freedom to become. And so, I think too often people of faith are too fearful. And that fear works against you as an artist and as a creator, period. Like it becomes a block versus like, okay, God, I'm going to create and let me stay in touch with you. Because if I stay in touch with God, whatever's in me is going to come out. It's really that simple. Whatever's in, it's going to come out. And it will come out through a wide varieties of expression. But if I'm afraid that the religious folks are going to say, ooh, you've sold your soul and all this stuff, then I'm not going to really create what's in my heart. I'm not going to create for God or from God. I'm creating for everybody else. Expectation. That's why I wrote the book. That's why I wrote my new book, because we got to stop living for everyone else's expectations of us and live based upon our expectation, based upon what God has created us to do and be.
So good. So good. You spoke of your book and you're the author of several books. I'm just going to run through them quick. Produced by Faith, The Weight, The Hollywood Commandments, The Success Commandments, The Truth About Men, which is a favorite amongst the ladies.
That's right. I gave y'all the manual. You know how to deal with it.
You was disrupting a lot of stuff. We was looking at you like, "Fine, hold on now, slow down."
Hey, had to tell the truth. I
love it. And now your new book, Live Free. You've had such success in the film and entertainment business. Why authorship? Why was it important for you to be an author?
I'll be honest with you. It really wasn't my choice. I wasn't focused on it. I wasn't thinking about it. There was a book agent when I was at Sony who came to me and said, "Hey, I think you should write a book." I said, "About what?" And she was like, "About your life in Hollywood, and you're so successful, and you've haven't compromised your faith." And so I was like, "Let me think about it." And about a year later, while I was in Beijing working on The Karate Kid, I got the idea for my book, Produced by Faith, my first book. And so as I started writing, I realized, oh wow, first of all, I have a lot to say, and two, I'm pretty good at it. And so it was just an organic process for me to allow that gift to be explored. That was it. And so, now I'm on the fifth book, and I'll continue to do it as long as God opens the door and there's things he wants me to say.
Yeah, so good. You mentioned Produced by Faith, and I want to just hit on that a little bit. We're here to talk about Live Free, but I want to talk about Produced by Faith just for a second, because I think it's going to give us a little framework for this living free. And also, I believe it'll act as a testimony to many that want to live this life of freedom. You talk about in Produced by Faith, faith sometimes is like, I guess, shooting an arrow into the outer space. That's how we sometimes see it. Professionally speaking, how has faith shown up in your work as a producer? Have there been moments where you had to stand on faith and it was shaken, or things didn't come out where you thought it should?
Man, every day as a producer, I'm standing on faith because as a producer, the producer sells the material. Right. So my job is to find material and sell it to a studio. And I got to get a studio that says, yes, we want to develop it. And then, yes, we actually want to make it. So, the making of my content is outside of my control. I control finding the content, but the studio's got to say, yes, we want to actually produce it, because the studio has to put up the millions of dollars required to produce it. So every single day, it's faith, man. It's a faith walk. Every day. I'm in pre-production on my next film now. And, I just got a call from the studio that we're over budget. And if we don't get the budget figured out in the next week and a half, they're going to shut down prep. So you talk about faith. It is faith every day, every single day. I'm like, all right, God, if this is the movie you want me to make, give me the wisdom on how to deal with these situations. There's a movie I'm trying to put a star in right now. And I'm like, okay, God, if you want me to do it, so every day is faith. There is not a day, especially as a producer, that I can do my job without it.
I'm curious, is there ever a moment now that you're in the thick of it that you say, Lord, what have I done? Why did I choose this life?
Ooh, Jesus. I'm like, oh, Lord, why? Yes, I do. I do. And I'm reminded that he put me here for a reason and a purpose. And I just try to stay clear and understand that. But man, yes, there are many days I'm like, what am I doing? God, okay, man, because this thing is hard. I know the presentation that sometimes I put out is a little shiny, but I'm telling you, this thing is hard. It is not for the faint of heart. If you want to make it in this business, especially, you got to be tough.
Absolutely. Let's jump into Live Free. First of all,
Sure.
I don't want to say I love the packaging. It's
Nice.
refreshing, and I don't know if it's just because we've been locked inside for a year that it's just fun to look at some water and a beach and somebody enjoyed it. You know what I mean? but I want to. You set out and you cover extensively expectations from all, I guess, any area that you can possibly think. But first, before we get into it, I want to give us a working definition of what you define expectations as.
A strong belief that something will happen in the future. That's what the expectation is. That's something, a strong belief that something will happen in the future. And what that something is depends on whatever it is you're hoping will happen. But that's my definition of expectation.
A strong belief that something will happen in the future. In chapter 6, you talk about cultural expectations. How does that sometimes show up in our world, cultural expectations?
Cultural expectations are, everyone else's expectations of us, right? So, we live in a variety of cultures. So, we're Black men. So we live in Black culture. We're men. We live in male culture. We're Christian. We live in the Christian culture. Wherever you're from, you have that culture, your family culture. So when you think about all of the cultures that we identify with, each one of those cultures has its own set of expectations. And there's a temptation that we never actually live because we are doing our day-to-day based upon whatever the expectation may be, dependent on whatever culture we are identifying with. And so I wrote, Live Free as a manual to help someone stop mindlessly meeting expectations of the culture that don't align with who you are. The whole book is to get people to think differently. Okay, well, this may be the culture's expectation, but is it mine? This may be what the culture wants me to do, but do I want to do it? And so it's very important because what I realize, and I point this out in the book, expectations are the secret software that run our life. So we're not actually reacting to events. We're reacting to our expectation of events. So if certain things go great, oh, wonderful, amazing. But if certain things fall beneath our expectations, we're devastated. We're upset. If someone exceeds our expectations, we think that person's amazing. If someone doesn't meet our expectations, we're disappointed. So I started to realize, wait, we're not actually living. It's the software called expectations that is determining how we feel in any given moment, dependent on whatever expectations of the culture we're trying to meet. So this book is to say, we got to stop. And every person reading this book needs to stop and ask the question, who are you? Where are you going? What's the life you want to live? Now, if there are certain cultural expectations that align with that, great, no problem. But if you are meeting cultural expectations of your family, of your friends, of your race, of your gender, of your faith that do not align with who you are and who God has called you to be, you got to release those expectations and set the ones that work for you. That's what this is all about.
That's good. Let's talk about that from the framework of this generation that we have now, because we're in a generation where everybody's living their best life. I'm doing me. I'm not bound by this. And you talk about not being bound by expectations of people and things or events or whatever. How do you embrace this philosophy of living free without becoming a renegade? Because that a person can take this thought and say, "Oh, I ain't doing nothing I don't want to do." How do you have balance, I guess, with this living free when it comes to expectations?
Why do we need balance? See, okay, but this is so good. This is so good. We are so conditioned to not be free that we even want to restrict the potential freedom we may choose to exercise. What's wrong with being a renegade for your own life? What's wrong with saying any expectation that does not bring me joy, I'm not doing it? What's wrong with that? Because guess what? You got a lot of experience living the other way. And where has it brought you? Discontent, dissatisfaction, frustration, aggravation, not happy. Why? Because I'm not really doing what I want to do. I'm not becoming who I want to be. So how do you find the balance? To me, that is the problem. We are not free to be free. So I want somebody to read this book and become a renegade for themselves and who God called them to be. I want them to read this book and say, wait a minute, hold on. I've been living for my mother. I've been living for my father. I've been living for my pastor, but I haven't been living for who God called me to be. So I'm going to get to the end of my life. And God's going to say, I gave you a life. And it's not going to be a good enough excuse to say, well, my mama wanted me to do this. So I didn't do what you want me to do, God. My uncle wanted me to become this. So I never became who you wanted me to be, God. No. I'd rather you be a renegade with no regrets and live it all the way out, according to your truth and how God has called you to do it, than to consistently try to account for everybody else's opinion. And then what happens is you take all the sharp edges of your difference and you sand them down. And you neatly fit into everybody else's point of view. So when people read this book, it's going to be disruptive in a great way. Because you're going to read this book and people are going to be like, right, wait a minute, hold on a second. Like, I got to get my life back. I got to get my power back. So I want people to have the courage to have difficult conversations. It's okay to have the conversation with the person that you love or loves you, to say, hey, there's certain things I can't do. No, I don't want to do that. I'm not called to do it. And listen, you may be disappointed, and that's okay. I can endure your disappointment. But what I can't do is endure the disappointment of never living the life I was called to live. Because too often what do, we please everybody else at the expense of ourselves. So can you imagine getting to the end of your life and you realize, I never lived. Why? Because I did what was expected, but never what was destined. And if you can't live with that, then that's why you got to read this book and start making some changes now.
I want to repeat that. I did what was expected, but not what was destined. That's so good.
That's it.
What's really good about this book is at the end, you offer expectation examinations at the end of each chapter. And I think it's so great because it gives the reader an opportunity to reflect and apply what they've just read. And one of the questions you ask at the end of chapter 9 is, what have you been blaming on your partner that you now see was really a problem created by your unset expectations? Talk about unset expectations and how they show up in relationships.
Yeah. So an unset expectation means you have not asked two questions. To set your expectations, you have to ask two critical questions. The first one, is it realistic or unrealistic? How do you know if your expectation is realistic? Is it within your control to do it? My belief is that if it's within your control, it's realistic to expect. The second thing is it communicated or uncommunicated? Is it spoken or unspoken? You got to determine if you have to actually communicate the expectation. When you're dealing in a relationship sense, most of our expectations are unset. Why? Because we're trying to control somebody else by an expectation we never asked them if we could have. So you're in a relationship and we buy into this false idea. Oh, well, if they love me, they know. They know what I want. They should do this. Where is that manual? Where is it? Doesn't exist. So here we are. And here's the crazy thing. You're in a relationship. The person that you love doesn't do what you want. Now, we never asked them, can I expect this of you? We never gave them the benefit to say yes or no. So it was an unspoken expectation. They didn't meet it. We judge them and get mad at them as if we spoke it. And then they say, what's wrong with us? And then we say, well, if you don't know what's wrong, I ain't going to tell you.
Wow.
Who is the crazy one in this scenario? It ain't the person that didn't meet the expectation. So this is why I put this in the book. I put a lot of tips and tools in the book for if you're single or you're in a relationship or you're married, on how to begin the process of communicating what you expect. Just because they love you doesn't mean they know. That doesn't mean they can read your mind. We got to use our words. We have to say, hey, my expectation is we're going to spend this amount of time together. Is that your expectation? Can I expect that? Let them say, listen, I can't meet that expectation. Now, I got a lot, I'm busy, but you can expect, if you're dating somebody, you can expect 2 nights a week. Okay. All right, cool. Great. Now, when somebody agrees to the expectation, you can hold them accountable.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we have unspoken expectations, we're trying to hold somebody accountable for something they never knew existed. So this is why it's so important to stop taking things for granted and to start communicating. Because I believe that if you have relationship problems, it's because there are unspoken expectations, because unspoken expectations are relationship killers. That's why I wrote the book. And I talk about my own marriage, and I talk about how unspoken expectations have impacted, my marriage in a negative way, and how I had to learn how to speak and to ask and to question, and then to let, her say yes or no, and then deal with that accordingly. But unset expectations are the thing that we have to work through. And that's why I put this in the book. You got to set your expectations. Are they realistic or not? And are they communicated or not?
Wow, that's so good. That's so good. Talk about realistic and unrealistic expectations as it pertains to your personal ambition or your profession. Someone who has maybe a lofty dream like yours to become a producer, but they don't have any expectation of themselves to do the work. You talked about discipline earlier. Talk about that in the framework of someone's career goals.
Yeah, no, this is important, because in my experience, this is where unrealistic expectations can sabotage and have sabotaged careers and people's hope, because we are trying to control something that's not in our control. So for me, I wanted to be a producer at 22, right? Like, I had a business plan and everything. Now, unless I am independently wealthy and going to fund my company, it's not unrealistic to believe that one day I'll be a producer, because I can prepare, right? The preparation is within my control. So that's realistic. But when it's going to happen, unless I can do it myself, is out of my control. So the unrealistic expectation was to expect that I would produce at 22.
Yeah.
And here's what happened. At 22, I didn't have, nobody wanted to fund my company. Nobody know who I was. They're like, who are you, man? You an assistant. Go here. You want to answer the phone? You want to get some coffee? Okay, cool. We're good. We'll hire you to do that. Long story short, I'll never forget. I said, fine, God, whenever you deliver the producing deal, I'll deal with that. So I got a job. I worked my way up. I became an executive for Sony Pictures. They had worked on movies like Pursuit of Happiness and The Karate Kid and other films. So at age 30, I'm an executive for Sony, and I wanted to be vice president by the age of 30. 30 years old came around, and on my 30th birthday, Cornell, I was depressed.
Wow.
Why? Because I wasn't vice president. And I was like, oh man, my career's not going well. Maybe I misunderstood. I'm not, maybe I don't have what it takes. I'm not a success. My 30th birthday, I spent in despair.
Wow.
6 months later, I get the promotion to vice president. Nothing in my life changes. Same job. I didn't get any more phone calls. I'm working on the same movies. And I realized, the unset and unrealistic expectation robbed me of celebrating a milestone. Think about this. This is why I wrote this book. We are allowing these unrealistic expectations to rob us from living, to rob us from moments when we should be celebrating, when we should be in gratitude. We're in depression. We're in anxiety. We're in frustration, because where is it written that if you don't get something by a certain date or age, that has anything to do with your value? It's not. And so this is why I wrote the book, to say, hey, we got to get a grip here. We don't control the when. We don't even control the how. We control the now. So there are new dreams that I'm working towards. I don't get the chance to say when those things are going to happen. So realistically, I don't give up on the dream. I just focus on what I can do today.
Yeah.
Right. I talk about in the fourth section of the book, how the process is the result. When you are trying to navigate your career and you're trying to excel in your career, don't focus on always where you want to be. Focus on what you're doing right now, because we control the process. You got a dope podcast. I don't care how hard you try. You cannot control when someone listens to it. Can't do it, no matter how hard you try. What's in your control? How you prepare, how you book your guests, how you promote it, how you market it. That's within your control. That's the process. And if you do that process well, whatever the intended result will be, will be. And I think in life, we got to start looking at it that way. appreciate where you are, do the best you can, but stop creating these arbitrary, unrealistic expectations that you got to be a certain place at a certain time. It ain't true.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. So good. The title of the book is Live Free, and you define living free as not being under the mental, physical, or emotional control of anybody or anything. As we look around in our country, we are under a lot of mental, physical, emotional
that's true.
Bondage, if you will. How does one embrace this philosophy of living free when all around them is pandemonium? You got a pandemic, you got health crisis, you got people dying. How do we embrace this thought or philosophy that you're putting in this book in this kind of climate we're in today?
Okay, it's a great question. What I'm going to say is hard because we're not used to it. Not that it's hard in general, but we're just not used to it. So here's my answer. We have to take ownership back over how we feel. So all those things you listed are, don't get me wrong, all important things, all external things. And in my experience, we outsource our internal feeling and we allow it to be controlled by external issues. So yes, I'm not saying that there aren't moments when we experience things that contribute to a negative feeling or a sad feeling. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is I want every reader that reads this book to start to get the power back over how you feel. So you talk about the pandemic and you talk about all the situations. So, during the pandemic, I was watching CNN all day, right? And then this is the first time I watched CNN this much probably in my life.
Me too.
Ever. And it was cool. Like, hey, I appreciated all the knowledge. But here's what I noticed. If the news is not framed in a slightly negative way, we aren't going to watch. Oh, everything's fine. I don't need to watch this, right? Everything's not fine. What's going to happen next? What's going to happen with the pandemic? What's Trump going to do? What's going to happen with the election? So, there's profit in peril. The more people are kept in peril, the more profit there is. So what I began to realize, I didn't turn off the news. I just said, I'm not going to let what I see dictate how I feel. I'm alive, right? I live in Los Angeles. The sun is shining. The trees are green. People are breathing. I'm alive. I am going to be sympathetic and empathetic to what's going on in the world. And at the same time, I'm still going to work on feeling good about where I am and what's happening for me. So that's how you navigate it. You take control back over how you feel.
Yeah.
And then if you're having a negative feeling, do an assessment. Where is this negative feeling coming from? Oh, it's coming because the reason why I'm feeling negative is I'm worried about a situation I can't control. Mm-hmm. I'm worried about what this person thinks. I'm worried about how I'm going to make ends meet. I'm worried about all these different things. When I start to get in control, understand how I feel, I then can become more in control of what to do about it. Okay, I'm worried about my job. Okay, well, do I have reason to worry about my job? No, my boss, loves me. I'm good. Okay, great. So why am I allowing myself to worry about something I don't have to worry about? Okay, well, I don't have a job. Okay, great. Nothing wrong with that. All right. So if you don't have a job, what do you control? I control where I put my resume. I control how I work my LinkedIn. I control asking people for help. I can control the type of job I go for. So every day I'm going to resist the temptation to focus on what I don't have and maximize what I do, which is time, energy, and feeling. This is how you begin to navigate the situation. That's why I talk about living free. Don't allow anything outside of you to dictate how you feel, to dictate how I feel. I start to take the power back. Say, no, I don't want to feel that way. No, I don't want to know. You know what? So, okay, why? Okay, I'm going to do something about that because I want to live free, period. And when you go back to scripture, the scripture says who the son sets free is free indeed. Now, the scripture is talking about sin. Jesus freed us from the power of sin. But if the wages of sin are death, and who the son sets free is free indeed. So if Jesus freed us from the only thing that would produce certain death, which is sin, we're free from it. So we have the ultimate freedom. So you mean to tell me I'm going to allow the news to put me in a prison? Not going to do it. You mean to tell me I'm going to allow someone on social media to put me in a prison that I don't want to be in? You mean I'm going to allow someone I don't even know who may say something about what I do to dictate how I live and breathe and feel about myself?
Wow.
No, I've done that long enough. I don't want to do that no more. There's a better way to live. That's why I wrote the book.
It's a better way to live. It's a better way to live. Wow. So good. So good. DeVon Franklin's new book, Live Free, Exceed Your Highest Expectations. Such a good read. I'm telling you, if you want to take the chains off your mind, your emotions, even physically, you know what I mean? Because I don't even know if you cover, I know you're a fitness buff, but I don't even know if you get into the health and wellness in this book.
I touch on it a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah. But live free. So have that expectation when it comes to that honey bun or whatever, and know that you have a written expectation to know if it has 500 calories, it's going to translate into fat. So have expectations in your life. But DeVon, I am so glad you joined me. I've got to ask one from a production standpoint before we get out of here. Everybody's working and trying to filter through with this pandemic when it comes to producing movies. You know, the people are looking for more content. Have you guys in Hollywood, I guess, got a flow and are things kind of more settled where you're finding ways to navigate around all of this that we're dealing with?
Yeah. I mean, I'm in pre-production on a movie called Flamin' Hot right now. It's a true story of the creator of Flamin' Hot Cheetos. And Flamin' Hot Cheetos is the number one snack in the country. It's like $1 billion brand. And a Mexican janitor who worked for Frito-Lay, which is the company that makes Cheetos. Mm-hmm. He created Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Wow. And so we're telling this unbelievable true story. Eva Longoria is directing the movie. And, we're in pre-production now. We're going to be shooting the movie in New Mexico. And so, everyone's being COVID tested multiple times a week and, wearing all the PPE on set. And so, we're doing all the protocols. So yes, Hollywood is back to producing. New productions are starting every day, especially as the vaccinations, start to get out there and the transmission rate goes down. More productions are just going to continue to increase. But yes, we are back in business. And now the movie theaters are being reopened and everyone's monitoring how that goes. There are some theaters that may never come back. We'll see. But, where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah. And there's a lot of will to make content because a lot of people need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's an interesting story. I'm curious and can't wait to see that about the
I can't wait to see it either.
Yeah. So DeVon Franklin's new book, Live Free. You guys, I want to just make this special announcement while we have your attention, but we're going to give away 5 signed copies for the month of May. Our May giveaway, we're going to give away 5 hardback copies. I believe it's a hardback, right? The final production.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
5 hardback copies of Live Free by DeVon Franklin. So throughout the whole month of May. So connect with us on IG and email me, whatever you got to do, but we'll let you know how to jump into the raffle for that free giveaway. DeVon, let us know how we can connect with you and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, you can connect with me through my website, devonfranklin.com. I also have some free resources there. So come on through and, get some free chapters and a free affirmation. Also, you can hit me on social media at DeVon Franklin on Twitter and Instagram and at DeVon Franklin Official on Facebook.
Awesome. Before we go, I got to get you to play my 5 favorites. I'll give you 2 words and you tell me which one is your favorite out of the 2. All righty. Okay. Talking or texting?
Talking.
Friday nights or Sunday mornings?
That's a tough one. I'll say Friday night.
Crustaceans or Mr. Childs?
Mr. Childs for sure.
Earth, Wind and Fire or the Isley Brothers?
Isley's not even a question.
What? All right. And last, food or fitness?
Oh,
I know, right? Look, they go together. I gotta have
they
this.
Sure
one.
Do. I don't know, man. I'm gonna do food, man. I'm gonna do food. Even though I love fitness, I'm gonna do food.
I know. I saw that Krispy Kreme bread pudding you made. It looks out of sight.
That thing was crazy.
Wow.
Man, you can only make that once a year. That thing, man. That's all your sugar for the year, bro. That thing was good, though.
Wow. Well, DeVon, I appreciate you joining me. Thank you so much. Continue the great work. And I will be in touch because we're going to be giving away 5 of these for the month of May. So we'll be in touch on that. But thank you so much for joining me.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
No problem. Take care.
All right. God bless. Peace.
Well, this has been the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. I'm your host, Cornell Jermaine. Until next time, let your soul be made whole. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Build on Beauty podcast. For more information about our host, please visit cornelljermaine.com.